The storm did not just roll over Red Rock. It hunted. Wind tore across the Wyoming plains like something alive, snapping fence wire, driving rain sideways, dragging cold into bone and soul. Clouds crushed the sky into a low gray ceiling, and thunder rolled so deep it rattled the windows of the Mercantile and shook the boards beneath every boot in town. Eli Conincade stood at the edge of the muddy street with his hat pulled low, coat collar turned up, hands shoved into his pockets even though they trembled from more than cold. He was waiting for the stage, waiting for the woman who was supposed to become his wife. The coach was late. Every minute stretched tight as wire. Mud sucked at his boots. Rain soaked his sleeves. His chest felt hollow, like the thunder had hollowed him out from the inside. He hated crowds, hated eyes on him, hated being noticed. But the law did not care about fear. Harland Pike did not care either. If Eli did not build a household, if he did not take a wife and make his claim look settled and strong, Pike would swallow his ranch piece by piece the way he had done to half the basin. Papers, water rights, debt notes, accidents that never led anywhere. Eli had survived drought, lonely winters, broken fences, and empty tables. Talking to a woman scared him more than all of it. Thunder cracked overhead. Then the stagecoach burst through the curtain of rain. Horses slid to a halt, hooves churning the street into soup. The driver shouted. The door swung open. A traveling salesman jumped down first and ran straight for the hotel without looking back. Only one passenger remained. A small boot touched the ground. Then another. When the woman stepped into the storm, like she had walked through worse. Her gray wool dress clung heavy with rain. Copper hair stuck to her cheek. A thin bag hung from her hand, far too light for someone carrying a whole life. Her green eyes lifted and swept the street, sharp and calm, taking in every corner. She did not look scared. She looked careful. Eli swallowed and forced his feet to move. One step, then another. His mouth went dry. "Miss Vale," he said. The words cracked. She turned toward him, studying his face without cruelty, only caution. "Mr. Conincade," she answered quietly. "I am Clara." He nodded, unable to hold her gaze for long. Thunder boomed again. He pointed toward the buckboard wagon waiting near the hitch rail. "We should go. The creek rises fast." Clara followed him without a word. But Red Rock did not stay quiet. Two churchwomen huddled under the Mercantile awning leaned together. "That is her," one whispered loud enough to travel through rain. "The one from the border." "A saloon girl," the other muttered. "No decent wife comes from places like that." "He must be desperate." The words struck hard. Eli flinched as if someone had hit him. He waited for Clara to cry, to snap back, to run. She did none of it. She stared ahead, shoulders tight, and said softly, "I am ready." Eli lifted her bag and helped her into the wagon. When his hand brushed her elbow, she stiffened so fast it felt like touching flame. He jerked back. "I am sorry," he muttered. "It is fine," she said, eyes forward. It was not fine. Nothing about it was fine. The ride home cut through rising wind and deepening cold. The mud splashed the wheels. Canvas flapped overhead. The sky bruised purple as the storm stretched across open land. Clara watched the empty distance with a quiet dread. If she screamed out here, no one would hear. Eli kept stealing looks at her, wanting to speak. "The house is warm. Food is ready. You are safe." The words stayed locked behind his teeth. Night had swallowed the prairie when the ranch came into view. A small house, low and square, huddled against the wind. Smoke curled from the chimney. Light glowed through the windows. Inside, heat wrapped around them. Fire snapped in the stove. Floors were swept clean. The table stood neat and set. Simple. Careful. "I put your things in the room there," Eli said, nodding toward a narrow door. "I sleep in the loft." Clara moved slow, eyes tracking every corner. No bottles. No shouting ghosts in the walls. She opened the bedroom. A narrow bed, a handmade quilt. On the shelf above it sat a small wooden horse and a faded red ribbon. She reached toward them. "Don't!" Eli's voice cut sharp. Clara spun. He stood pale in the doorway, breathing too fast. He crossed the room, not to her, but to the shelf. His hands shook as he shoved the ribbon and toy into a drawer and slammed it shut. "I am sorry," he said rough. "Old things." "It is all right," Clara replied, though her heart thudded hard. "I did not mean to pry." Eli swallowed. "Supper," he said. "I will make supper." They ate with only the fire for company. Later, shadows stretched long across the walls. Clara stood near the center of the room. She knew the rules of arrangements like this. She undid the top button at her collar. Eli froze. Clara," he whispered. "What are you doing?" "I know what is expected," she said. "I want to be a good wife." She stared at his belt buckle. "I am your wife. Can I?" "No." The word hit hard. Clara flinched. She waited for anger. It did not come. Eli backed up until he struck the stove. "Please don't," he whispered. "I am not here to take from you." She stared at him, lost. "You are not a thing I bought," he said. "Not ever." Her chest tightened. "I do not know how to be safe," she admitted. Eli stepped closer, slow, gentle. "We will learn." He touched her arms light as air. She rested her forehead against his chest, shaking. Outside, the wind screamed. Inside, two strangers held each other like the ground might give way, and neither of them saw the rider waiting in the dark beyond the fence line. But morning came sharp with frost. Eli stepped onto the porch with coffee in his hand and stopped cold. The gate stood open. Hoofprints stamped the yard. 3 riders. A paper was nailed to the post. "Sell by the end of the month, or accidents will decide it for you." P. Eli folded the note and slid it into his pocket. Clara was inside, moving quiet through the kitchen. Trouble would not reach her again. Days passed. Clara worked like she meant to earn every inch of ground. Blistered hands, split skin, hauling water before dawn. Eli taught her slow and patient. "You have a gentle touch," he said one morning. She stiffened. Compliments had teeth where she came from. He meant nothing by it. Town was crueler. Whispers followed her. The clerk hesitated over beans until Eli stepped forward. "She is my wife," he said. But the words steadied her more than she expected. 3 days later, she walked to town alone. A hand grabbed her wrist in an alley. Whiskey breath. "You the Conincade bride." She went still. A shadow filled the alley mouth. "Let her go," Eli said. He slammed the man into brick and held him there. "If you touch her again," he growled, "you will not walk away." At home, his hands shook. "I wanted to kill him." "You didn't," Clara said. "I choose you." She kissed him. That night they held each other like something new had begun. By morning, birds went silent. A rope cut across Clara's chest by the creek. A masked man warned her. Blood stained her sleeve when she ran home. Eli loaded guns. "I will kill them." She stopped him. "You are not your father." He dropped to his knees. They held until the rage drained. And before dawn, flames climbed the barn. Hay burned to ash. "We ride for Cheyenne," Eli said. But Pike moved faster. Deputies arrested Clara. Court turned cruel. Eli stood for her, one day to prove Pike's guilt. That night, Clara stole the ledger. Pike chased her. Gunshots chased them home. Riders circled the ranch. Bullets ripped boards. Then more riders came. Federal men. Pike fell in the dirt. Eli stopped his fist. "I am not you." Spring followed fire. They rebuilt. One night, Clara stood brushing her hair. "I am your wife," she whispered. "Can I?" "You always choose." They sat on the porch months later, hands linked. It is a hard country, but it is ours. The barn smoldered for 2 days. Black beams leaned like broken bones against the sky. The smell of burned hay clung to everything, thick and bitter, sinking into clothes and hair and breath. The cattle stood thin and restless, their winter feed gone in one night of flame, meant as a message. Eli did not sleep. He worked until his hands bled, tearing down what could not be saved, stacking what little remained. Clara stayed beside him, silent, steady, passing boards, carrying nails, refusing rest. Every strike of his hammer sounded like anger held too tight. Pike had stopped warning, but he was erasing. On the third morning, Eli saddled the horses before dawn. Frost bit hard. The sky was pale and sharp. "We go to Cheyenne," he said. "We take the letters, the notes, everything." Clara nodded. "I kept them wrapped in oilcloth." She did not ask if it was safe. They both knew it was not. The road was long and cruel. Wind cut through their coats. Snow caught them on the second night, blinding and sudden. They slept in turns, backs pressed together for warmth, rifles close. Clara dreamed of ropes and fire. Eli dreamed of his father's hands, red and shaking. By the time Cheyenne rose from the horizon, their horses were spent and their bones ached. They went straight to the district office. Marcus Thorne listened. He did not smile. He did not interrupt. He read the letters twice. That he studied the burned edges of the ledger pages Clara had taken from Pike's trash weeks before. "This is enough to open a case," he said slowly, "but not enough to finish one." Eli's chest tightened. "We need a witness," Thorne continued. "Someone who saw Pike order violence. Someone still alive." Clara's face went still. "Molly," she said. "The laundry girl." Eli turned to her. "Are you sure?" "She saw Pike's men beat a woman named Sarah to death," Clara said. "For talking." Thorne nodded. "Bring her, quietly." They found Molly near the rail yard, hands red from soap, eyes darting at every sound. When Clara spoke her name, the girl nearly ran. "I cannot," Molly whispered when Clara told her why. "He will kill me." "He will kill more if you don't," Clara said gently. Molly's mouth trembled. "Tomorrow," she said. "I will come tomorrow." Pike struck first. Deputies met them outside the boarding house that night. Badges bright, smiles thin. A forged warrant. Theft. A diamond brooch. "It is a lie," Eli said, hand drifting toward his gun. Clara caught his sleeve. "If you fight, we both hang," she whispered. She held her wrists out. The cell was cold stone and iron. Court came fast and cruel. The prosecutor tore at Clara's past like it was meat, questions meant to shame, to strip her bare in front of strangers. "Did you sell comfort to men?" he asked. Laughter rippled. Clara stood straighter. "I survived," she said. "And I saw Pike steal land, steal cattle, and kill to keep his power. The room shifted. Eli took the stand. "My wife is the bravest person I know," he said, "and Pike is the thief." Judge Atherton leaned back. "Well, one day," he said, "produce the ledger, or she stands trial." That night, Clara did not sleep. She knew the back halls of rich men's buildings. She knew locks. She knew silence. She slipped into Pike's club after midnight, heart steady, hands sure. The safe opened with a soft click. The ledger lay heavy in her arms. Pike stepped into the room. She threw the book into the candle. Darkness fell. She ran. Gunshots chased her through alleys where Eli waited with horses ready. They rode until dawn burned the sky. They did not stop until the ranch came back into view. Dust rose behind them. Riders from the east, from the north. Eli barred the door. "Load," he said. The first bullet shattered glass. The siege came hard and loud. Clara fired when shapes moved. Eli reloaded fast, precise. Smoke filled the room. Wood splintered. Men shouted. They could not hold long. Then a whistle cut through gunfire. "Horses!" Federal riders stormed the yard. Pike tried to flee. His horse threw him. Eli stood over him. "I am not you," he said, and walked away. Handcuffs closed. Justice came too late to save the barn. Eli stared at the ashes. "We lost everything." "No," Clara said. "We kept each other." Spring came slow. They rebuilt board by board. Trust came slower, but it came. And Pike waited in a cell, watching the walls close in. Not finished. Not yet. Spring did not arrive all at once. It crept in careful pieces, like it was unsure it would be welcomed. First came the thaw. Then thin green shoots pushing through blackened ground where the barn had burned. The creek ran full and loud again, washing away blood and ash, though the scars remained if you knew where to look. Eli and Clara rebuilt with their own hands. They cut timber. They hammered boards. They argued quietly over crooked nails, and laughed when walls leaned and had to be pulled straight again. Every board raised felt like a small victory against everything that had tried to break them. Pike's trial moved slower than fire, but steadier. Witnesses came forward once the ledger was read aloud. Ranchers who had lost land, men who had been paid to look away, women who had buried secrets because fear fed their children better than truth ever had. Molly took the stand. Her voice shook. Her hands twisted in her dress. But she spoke. She told them what she saw, who ordered it, who paid. When the verdict came, it was quiet. Guilty. The sentence was long. Harland Pike did not look powerful anymore. He looked small, shrinking. Eli did not watch him leave. He was busy mending a fence. Life did not soften just because justice showed up late. Money stayed tight. Winter feed had to be bought. Roof leaks waited for rain. Some nights, Eli still woke sweating, hands curled like fists around ghosts. Clara learned the rhythms of the land. She planted seeds behind the house. Beans, squash, corn. She sang while she worked. Soft songs with no words Eli recognized, but carried like comfort anyway. Trust grew in small moments, in the way Eli stepped aside instead of reaching without asking, in the way Clara stopped flinching when he touched her shoulder, in the way silence stopped feeling heavy. One evening, rain tapped gentle on the roof, the kind of rain that nourished instead of threatened. But Clara stood by the window, brushing her hair. Eli sat on the bed, watching her like she might vanish if he blinked. She turned to him. "Do you still think I will break?" she asked. He shook his head. "I think you bend and come back stronger." She stepped closer, slow, sure. She unbuttoned the top of his shirt. "I am your wife," she said again, but this time her voice did not shake. "Can I?" Eli smiled, soft and real. "You always choose," he said. They learned each other not in hunger, not in fear, but in patience. Days turned into months. Red Rock stayed wary but quieter. Whispers faded when people saw Clara stand tall beside Eli at church, at market, at the fence line. She did not shrink. She did not hide. One morning, Eli found her standing by the creek, staring at the water. "Thinking," she said. About what?" "About how close I came to losing this," she answered, "and how strange it feels to still have it." He took her hand. "We earned it." That summer, the ranch breathed again. Cattle fattened. Crops came up strong. The rebuilt barn stood straighter than the old one ever had. One night at dusk, they sat on the porch. The sky burned orange and purple. A harmonica drifted from a neighbor's field. Crickets started their song. Clara leaned into Eli. "It is a hard country," she said. He squeezed her fingers. "But it is ours." Stars came out one by one, and for the first time, neither of them was afraid of the dark. They had fire in their past, truth in their hands, and a quiet love no storm could hunt down again.